Okay, so we got about an hour left. Let me let me ask you guys.
So can you what's an app that we might have seen that uses a list view?
Okay. Boom. This is a list. It's actually kind of a complicated list because it has sections and actually, yeah, this is not very trivial, but just a regular list of some text. We could probably bang this out in maybe 15, 20 minutes, and that'll leave us like 40 minutes to do like hack up some stuff. Does it sound like a good idea?
Go for it.
Yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, this one is kind of fun because it actually has images and stuff. That is one thing that we haven't touched on too much. We'll add that to the hack section or the sandbox stuff. So if you guys want to work on some image stuff, then we'll totally work on that then. Okay. But for now, so I'm going to go back into Eclipse here, and let's do this in the second fragment. I mean, might as well. It's just an empty layout right now, right? So I don't know what the last thing I did in here was. Looks like I added a character by accident. Okay. I'm just going to close all this stuff just so I get a clean slate. But let's go to the second fragment XML layout. Okay. So we have this linear layout with nothing in it right now. And what we're going to add is a list view. It's just a different kind of view. Okay. And I'm actually going to, I don't really like the way I auto-completed that. I'm going to do this version where you don't have to say list view twice. Okay. And let's go ahead and give it an ID. So Android ID equals @+ID / we'll just say list. How about that? And let's do layout width is match parent. And let's actually say the layout height is wrap content. And I believe the graphical layout is smart enough to show you like an example of if there was stuff in there. It's kind of hard to see, but it actually shows that like if you had list items in here, this is what they would look like, right? It's just really hard to see. Wow, red looks like pink over here. Over there it's like maroon. All right. Okay. So I think that's all we need in the XML file. So basically we want to get a reference to this list view in secondfragment.java, right? Everybody got this? Okay. So I'm going to go to secondfragment.java, in much the same way that we did find view by ID in the first fragment, we're going to do the exact same thing here. The only catch is let's actually just store it into a variable. So let's say a new list view equals, and we're gonna do v dot find view by ID. Again, v is it's our XML file, right? It's that XML file inflated, and we're gonna find our list view inside it. And we know the ID is r.id.list. Now, I need to import list view, and it's going to complain here because we haven't cast the view to a list view. You can fix this actually by mousing over it. It says add cast to list view, so we could just do that. Cool. Which all it did was add parentheses list view in front of find view by ID. So now we have a reference to our list view. Now much the same way we did with pagers, where we did pager.setAdapter, list views you do the exact same thing. Okay? And let's actually create a new file, a new class.
How did you do the list view last step?
The cast thing?
Yeah.
if you mouse over the red text, it says there's two possible fixes. And the first one where it says add cast to list view. Okay. Have you imported list view? Looks like it. Did you? Looks like you didn't have the. You probably didn't save this. I bet. If you go a second. But you never gave it the list ID. You just did ID slash. If you put list at the end. Now it should know what list is, but. Oh, you did capital. Yeah. And now it'll say add cast. Perfect. Okay, so what we want to do now is actually create a list view adapter instead of our pager adapter. So how about up here in our base package, the sandbox app, for me anyway, I'm going to do a new class. And let's just call it my C-man. Yeah, no problem. My, I don't know, list adapter. My list adapter. And we're going to subclass, we're going to say extends base adapter. Yeah, let's just do that. This is like the most generic adapter you can have. Okay, and now it's going to complain that there's methods that you didn't implement. So if you mouse over that and hit add unimplemented methods, you get a bunch of stuff actually. Okay, so let's actually, we're going to make a list that just displays a list of strings. Okay, so let's actually add a constructor to this. So we're going to say public my list adapter. But it's actually going to accept an argument, which is a list. This is some Java magic here. I'm going to say list, and to specify what type of list, you say, what do you call that? Arrow? Open arrow. And we're going to say of type string, capital string. Close arrow. And then we're going to call this, I don't know, list.
Should be just a single open angle bracket?
Yep. Sorry, I couldn't see that far. Okay, so it doesn't know what list is, so I'm going to import that. Or Control-Shift-O. But now we have this list. I'm actually gonna save this. I'm gonna just copy that. I'm gonna make a variable in this class, a private list of strings, and we'll call it I don't know, let's call it items. And then in the constructor, we're gonna this list of stuff you're passing in, you're gonna assign that into our global variable. So we say items equals list. Now I whizzed through that, but basically the goal is we're going to create a new myList adapter, and we're going to hand it a list of strings. And we're going to hold on a reference to that in our class that's called myList adapter. Cool? So now, whenever we extended base adapter and added the unimplemented methods, you notice there's a bunch of functions down here that we have now. The first one you've seen before in our pager adapter, this get count. So if the goal is to display this list of items or this list of strings, you could probably guess that the number of items that we want to display is however many things are in there. And we have this items list, right? So if I say I want to return items dot size. And this just says, hey list view, you need to display this many rows, this many things. Some of these methods are kind of garbage methods that you can use for grabbing a hold of a certain one or a certain list item. The sort of default behavior I would do is for get item ID. These integers that are passed in, again, I hate that they don't give them good names, but arg0, let's call these position. Same thing for the next method, get item. And you might as well do it for get view down here as well, which we'll get to in a bit. But these are nice because from some other context, you could say adapter.getItem at this position. In Java, lists are pretty handy. So instead of returning null, I could actually return items.get. And it actually gets the string at that position in the list. So I could just pass it position. Again, we could actually probably get this to work without implementing these, but this is just good practice so you understand what all the methods do. Get item ID, however, is pretty darn useless. We can just return position if we want to. It actually casts it to this long thing, but don't worry about it. Okay. Okay, so we have an adapter. We get this list. We're handed this list of strings, and now it's time to figure out how to display that list of things. And that's what this last method here, getView, does. Let's rename these parameters. So the first one we renamed to position. Second one, let's rename this to let's rename it to recycled view. And the last one, not that important, but we'll call it a parent because it's really the view that the list view lives in, but we don't really need it. Okay, so the question is, what the hell do we do in here? Okay, this returns a view. The end goal is return a view to be displayed at this position in the list. Okay, so let's say view v equals recycled view. And then at the end, instead of returning null, let's return v. Okay. So let me know when everybody's here, or if anybody is running into anything. Cool. So the end goal here is return a view that displays this text at that position in the list. Okay. So without getting too complicated with the recycled view thing yet, let's actually just do that. So let's it might make more sense to do this first though, actually. So let's now, before we do anything, let's check to see if v equal null. And in that case, we're actually going to create a new view. And let's say v equals a new text view. Okay, I think I'll need to import text view. And actually it's going to complain and say there's 3 constructors you can choose from and you're not using any of them. Okay, and actually to get this to work, we need to pass in another variable to our adapter. Okay, so back up here in our constructor, my list adapter, let's add a parameter before the list of stuff, and it's going to be of type context. Let's just call it CTX. So before my list of strings, I said context CTX, comma. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold on a reference to this just the same way we hold on a reference to list. So up here, we're going to add a global variable, private context, and let's call it im context. If you haven't already, do the Control-Shift-O trick to import context. And in our constructor, we're going to say mContext equals CTX. This is a very normal thing to do in Java programming, and actually just object-oriented programming in general. You know, you have a constructor, you pass in some arguments to instantiate that object, and then you hold on reference to it. Alright, cool. So we have this mContext variable, and the reason we needed that was because in order to create this text view, we're going to pass that to it. So we should actually be able to run this, I think. Although we're not using this adapter anywhere. So let's actually go do that. So let's go back to second fragment, right? Because that's where we put our list view in the second fragment XML, and then we already have a reference to it actually, right? But what we're going to do is we actually need to create a list of strings to display. So let's do some Java voodoo here. We're going to make a list of strings and call it items, sure. And we're going to say that equals a new array list of strings. Syntax here is kind of gobbledygook, but it's fairly readable. So this says we're creating a variable that is a list of strings, and we're assigning into it a new instance of array list of strings. And you just have to have this open close parentheses at the end. And now we're just going to add a bunch of strings to it. So let's do a simple for loop. So we're going to say for int index equals 0, semicolon, index less than, let's put 100 things in there. And then index plus plus. This is like standard C, C++ for loop. So this loop's going to get executed 100 times from 0 to 99. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a string into our array list up here. So we're going to say items.add, and we can just give it a string. But let's give it a string that's unique to that index, since we already have this index variable. So let's say we'll say item. And strings, I'm going to say item colon, and you can actually just concat the integer at the end. So I'm going to say plus index. So what this is doing is it's adding a string to the list, but it's the string item colon index, which will be 0 through 100, or 0 through 99.
Is there a space there after the colon?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's just part of the string, so it's not really a syntax thing. It's just kind of like making it look pretty. Okay, so now we have this list of arrays, or list of strings. So now we actually want to set our adapter for the list view. So I'm going to say list view.set adapter, but I'm going to hand it a new my list adapter. New my list adapter. And remember, our constructor for my list adapter takes two parameters, a context and a list of strings. We just created our list of strings, and our context is the activity that this fragment's in, right? And remember, activities have a getActivity method. Matt, you remember how I said getActivity can sometimes return null? The code we're writing can totally sometimes break, but that's fine. It'll work for right now. So what I'm doing is setting the adapter for the list view, and I'm instantiating a new myList adapter. The first parameter is a context, which an activity is a context. And items is our list that we just created. So I'm going to import my list adapter, and everybody's happy. So I should be able to run this right now. Follow the path. I set an adapter, my list adapter. Inside my list adapter, I say get count should return items.size, which is a list of 100 things. That's it, right? So if I run this guy, I'm gonna hit home real quick. Okay, so here's our green activity, but over in red, I believe. There we go. So you can't actually see anything, but it is.
I think there's some lines.
Yeah, they're just really hard to see. Let's change our background color to like white. In fact, if you just don't set a background color, I think it'll be white. And just to be complete, we'll say FFF instead of F0F. I'm going to say FFF. That's in the second fragment.xml file. We'll rerun that guy. Go back to the emulator. And now this is white, and you can actually sort of see the lines, right? So it's just this scrollable list now. And what all this is 100 empty text views with nothing in them. Okay. So let's go back to our list adapter, and let's actually give those text views a value, right? And I'm actually going to instead of making v type view, I'm going to make it type text view, just so I don't have to you don't have to recast it later. But what you will have to do is cast it right here. So all I did was change the type of v to text view, and then the error that pops up, if you mouse over that, it'll just say cast recycled view to text view. Any questions there? Sorry, we're back in my list adapter.
So add cast to text view?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you'll notice recycled view is a parameter that gets passed in, and it's of type view, not of type text view. But our intention is to just create a bunch of text views. So we'll know that it'll be a text view when it comes time. So right after this weird if v equals null, create a new text view thing, we're going to actually set the text. Now keep in mind, we have this global variable up here that's our list of strings. It's a list of 100 strings, and lo and behold, the first parameter to get view is the position. So we should be able to just say v.setText, and we can set it to items.get and pass it the position. So from second fragment, we created our list of 100 strings that should say item:\index. And then we're passing that list in, and in getView, when it comes time to draw a particular position in the list, we get the text from the list of strings. So now, instead of a empty list or empty views, assuming I didn't break something, we should see a list of, hey, what do you know? So now it's a list that has all of our strings that we created. And I can scroll through it. Oh no! And I can click on these. It doesn't really do anything right now, but we could definitely add click listeners for that. So, real quick, so let's look at what happens if we take this set text and move it inside the if v equals null. Let's just see what happens. So I'm going to run this guy. And the results are kind of bizarre. If I can find my cursor. So it looked fine at the beginning, but now once I started scrolling, some weird stuff started happening. They're all in really weird orders. Okay, and this is sort of the magic of list view adapters. That it's kind. I will say this is probably my least favorite part about the whole Android SDK. Is the way the adapters work. So what I'm doing here is recycled view. There's a reason we called it that. Okay, recycled view is just that. In the list view, I'm going to back out of this and start back up because you'll see that at the beginning it looks great. We see text views from 0 all the way to however many you can see on the screen, right? So you'll notice that kind of correlates pretty well to this if v equals null, set the text. Otherwise, just return the recycled view, right? So what Android's doing behind the scenes here is that once you start scrolling, this view, this 0, gets recycled to come from the bottom. So if I scroll up, you'll see 0, 0, 1. It's kind of weird that you actually saw 2 zeros. I don't know how that's
It
possible.
might have been just shaking your mouse doing it.
Maybe. Yeah. Either way, that's kind of weird. Okay. So what it's doing is we're never setting the text again, and the recycle view gets reused from the top. That's why you have to have this weird if v equals null, create a new text view. Now you could also do this. Just completely disregard whether v is null or not, and always create a new text view. The problem is getView gets called a lot. GetView, like while you're scrolling through this text view, like even if I scroll just a little bit, getView is getting called a bunch. Okay? And the idea here is you're basically trying to make it not so taxing on the phone. Only create however many views you're ever going to see in the scrollable area. Okay? But if I got rid of this, like it would work as intended, but just not very efficiently. Okay? And that's why I hate this part about the SDK so much, is because like that seems really, I don't know, not so trivial, yet it's such a huge performance difference. Right? So that is why we only create the text views when they're null, when there is no recycled view, but we always set the text. So that way, even if you're getting a recycled view, at that position, you're saying, well, set the text to this position in the list. That way, it looks correct. Now, this is way too complicated for what we're actually using it for. This was kind of more to prove a point. But there actually are some ways in the SDK to just create a really simple adapter that displays text. Like you can hand it a list of strings, exactly what we're doing. But this is just like a really simple example where you can see how adapters work. If I pull this back up, should work now. Yeah, so now they're in the right order, even when you scroll. Any questions about that? Everybody get it to run, okay?
I think I'm close, but I'm one piece away.
Okay.
On this file, I'm getting this underline. Or actually, other issues on so.
Singular string, not plural.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Sir? You just want to pull it out that way. Good call, Nick.
I want to see what happens next.
Okay, so that's just kind of like this is actually comes more in handy when you have a more complicated list item, right? Right? We could stuff whatever view we wanted to into each list item, and in fact, we could. This is actually an instance where we didn't inflate a view from XML. You notice we actually just said new text view. It's the first time we've done that. And it just kind of goes to show that when you say layout inflator dot inflate, all it's doing is just taking all that XML and calling new text view, put that text view inside here, new linear layout, put that here, right? So they're all Java classes, but that's how they get drawn. So yeah, cool. We could just as easily put. Let's go to the. Oh, we don't have. That would take a little while. I don't want to do that right now. We got half an hour, so I think this is a good point to maybe break up and just kind of work on learn some stuff that you want to learn. Okay, so if everyone will go to in your browser, you have to be on AwesomeNet 1 for this, by the way. But in your browser, I would love to get there. If you would go to this address, if you're on AwesomeNet 1. Okay, so these are just kind of some resources. The first link, it says tutorial. All the blue text is they're just links. But the tutorial is actually one of the tutorials from that third link, Andrew tutorial resource. And Nick, you had asked about like a good resource for just tutorials on different tasks. That third link down is a good one. For instance, on Google Maps, there's a little bit of setup you have to do before because Google wants you to have like an API key just for your app, so that all of the map views, every time they go request like a map tile or something, they know who's asking for it, basically. And it actually, you won't see map tiles unless you get an API key. And that tutorial kind of walks through the whole process of getting the API key, integrating a Google Map into your app, and I would be more than glad to like help you guys stumble through that if that's something that you want to work on. Some of this other stuff, however, is really just sort of resources that I think you might end up needing if this is something you want to like actually start playing around with on your own. Because so these are more stuff that I feel like you could look at today. But there's also some stuff down here. So using Git repositories was just kind of here because a lot of these others, you notice Action Bar Sherlock, for example. This just goes to GitHub. And if you, I'm going to right click this, open a new tab. But it's just this big code base. But what it is this is what I was talking about earlier that adds support for the action bar all the way back to Gingerbread. You noticed it wouldn't, oh, that's really rude specs. You notice that the Android manifest, we had to change our minimum SDK to 11 in order to use the action bar. This allows you to go all the way back to, it looks like 2.x, which is actually further back than I was thinking. So yeah, so there's tutorials here on how to integrate that into your app. If I go back to this guy, Universal Image Loader is really nice. Basically, say you had a list view and you wanted to pull images from the web, sort of, and still have a nice like smooth list. This is definitely the tool to use it. And this last link here is actually my own concoction. It's on GitHub as well, but you don't necessarily have to have Git installed to pull this stuff down. Over here on the right, you'll notice there's a download zip. So you can actually just get this code if you really want it. But there's actually a couple of example projects in here. One is user location, so it's sort of like if you want to mess around with the GPS. And the API delegate example is a little more advanced, but it's sort of like, it was kind of hard to put this stuff into a library when it was more just like convention stuff. Like, I want to know how to go do something on a background thread and just and not bother the UI, right? So some of that stuff's a little more complex, but this library project right here is actually kind of nice. I think I detail this in the README, possibly, maybe. Down here you'll see what sort of stuff is included in the library, and what's really helpful there is just some tools that you kind of need in almost any app that uses the internet, right? So there's just some good tools in there, and I'd be glad to like walk through that some of that with you. But are there any like directions that some like projects that like you're interested in working on your own that would require X or Y or Z? I'm trying to think of a good use for the universal image loader, because that would be a pretty good example to use. What's up?
Be something with that with the button to load an image when we click the button.
We could do that. Let's do it. Okay, so this link right here, right? We have this universal image loader. If you click it, there's actually. Oh, sorry. I was looking down here and not up there. I had the same tab open in multiple places. If you scroll down, that is not what I meant to click on. Universal image loader is what I meant to click on. If you scroll down here in the README, there's a section that you can actually download this thing called a jar. So this is actually what we want to download. So if you just right-click that or save it, I'm just going to save this to my downloads here. Okay. So show in folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this file. Right-click, copy. And I can actually go into Eclipse from here. So inside Eclipse, you'll notice one of the folders in the Package Explorer is called libs. And you notice there's actually already a jar in there, this Android support v4 thing. This is actually the jar that we're getting all the fragment stuff from. And if you just right-click libs, you can paste that jar that we just downloaded.
Where did we download that jar from?
Okay, so over in, there we go. So from the gist, where'd it go?
Figure out how to get to the gist.
Oh, okay, so we still need the gist. I mean, you may just go ahead and go to this URL. It's github.com/Nostra13, and then universe all this jazz.
So I wasn't paying attention. Which one do we download? The first one?
Yeah, the first one. And then again, once you have that, you're just going to copy it into your libs folder of your project. So I just right-clicked libs, and pasted it in there.
Okay.
So, and there's some really good documentation on this on here. It kind of demonstrates how to use the thing. Well, my computer is super hot right now. Why don't I have the... Oh, what's the name of that fan thing, JPK? SMC? Yeah, there we go. Like, my laptop is about to explode. Whenever that comes. Okay, but anyway, in this README, it kind of shows how to use this stuff.
Where did we paste this?
Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple of things that we actually have to add to our manifest file for this to really work. And it actually shows them right here in step 2. And they're permissions. So this is where in your manifest you could actually say, I'm allowed to use the internet. I'm allowed to read your contacts, or I'm allowed to write to the SD card. You basically have to say that up front before people will install your app, right? And that's so we're actually just going to copy these two. Technically, there's a comment in here, but these 2 lines are really what's important. If you copy those and then go into the manifest file, And you just want to stick them up here before the application. So, like right here. We just want to paste them right here. Why is Bluetooth on? I never saw the SMC thing. Do I? How do I nix that problem? Oh, here we go. Nice, thank you. Yeah, it's running a little hot. Okay. Cool, so we added our permissions, and pull up this guy again. Well, I would like to. Yeah, this is me failing at using Max right now, so I don't know if you guys noticed this. Okay, got it. Here we go. So the next thing is so this library is pretty much just magic, and the complicated part is this part right here, is basically like configuring this image loader thing. Okay, so you right here you could, let's just copy this for right now. So this is from the repo page on GitHub. I think this is step 3 or 4, but this configuration part, I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to do this, go over to Eclipse.
Copy the part that says don't copy this.
Oh, does it say that?
I did the same.
Okay, so let's go to, I guess, tab activity. And this is where we set up our view pager and all that stuff, right? Let's just do this. Let's do this first thing. So, how about right after we set action bar? Okay, so I'm just pasting this, and yeah, you're right. We probably can get rid of a lot of this. Yeah, this is just kind of demonstrating like everything you can do. Let's do let's just get rid of all this. Let's try where is that used? That's kind of important. Let's just leave that. So bear with me here. The only thing I want to have left is this, and then yeah. So and then context here is actually going to be the activity. So we're going to say this, and then I'm going to hit Command Shift O, get rid of all this stuff. Cool. Okay, so that was rather complicated, and I kind of whizzed through that. But basically, I'm creating this new image loader configuration, and anywhere it said context, I just replaced with this because it's the activity, right? And I'm only saying that this where to cache the stuff on disk. I'm gonna re-indent that guy. Okay. So I'm gonna try to keep that up while I move through on the tutorial up here. I'll pull this down here so you guys can look at Eclipse. There we go. Oh, where'd he go? Oh, it's right here. Okay. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So we create the image configuration. Sorry, I wasn't very prepared for this, so I'm trying to trying to make this as simple as possible. Yeah, here we go. The thing that we're not doing is we actually have to do this afterwards. You have to say image loader get instance, and you initialize it with this configuration that we just created. And now it's pretty much easy to use from this point. The configuration part is kind of what makes this library so useful, because you can kind of tune it to your own needs. But the main thing that you get from this is the ability to say image loader dot get instance, and you can say display image. You basically give it a URL and an image view, and then magic happens. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that there. So what Nick was asking if we could do was, can we click a button and display an image, right? So we have a button already in the first fragment. Now, since this image loader, this get instance thing, this is kind of like, it's called a singleton, but basically you configure this thing once and it's configured everywhere, right? So you only have to do this once ever. So we could actually do image loader.getInstance anywhere in the whole project now. So that's what's cool about it. If we go to, say, our first fragment, right now what we're doing when we hit the button, if you guys recall, is we are going to main activity, right? And we're going to nix that and get an image view going here. So let's actually, we need an image view first. So let's go to, let's see, I'm going to save my manifest here. I didn't save that. But we're going to go to, back to our layout for the first fragment. So if we go to resources, layout, first fragment.xml. Right now, here's our button that we created, right? Let's just add an image view after this. So it's much the same way you do a button, you're going to say image view. Android ID, we got to give it an ID, so let's say @+ID. We'll just call it image. And then let's do, we got to give it a height and a width. Let's say Android layout width. Let's just say wrap parent. How about that? Or wrap content. Sorry, my bad. And then layout height as well is wrap content. I'll wait just a second for everybody to get to that point. So this is in first fragment.xml. We're just adding an image view after this. In the graphical layout, you'll notice you don't really see anything. And that's really because our image view is there. There's just no, we're not setting the image to be anything, right? It's just an empty image view. About the only drawable we have access to us right now is actually this. If you say source, there is an @drawable, and this IC launcher thing. This is the icon that you see on your phone or on the emulator. It's like the little Android guy, right? So if I say that and I go to the graphical layout, you'll see that it's setting that image view to the little Android guy. It's a pretty terrible looking background, so I guess let's just get rid of the background color. Green on green is not that great. Everybody see what I did there though? So this image view is special and has an attribute called source. And you can set that to a drawable. You notice over here there's all these drawable folders, and they have that PNG in there. I don't know if I can open this from here or not. Yeah, so that's what the PNG looks like. And that's what we're seeing in the graphical layout as well. So what we want to do is that same image view in Java, go load some remote image from like the internet. Okay, so we have our image view. If we go back to firstfragment.java, instead of this nonsense of starting main activity, we're gonna get an what is the word I'm looking for? A reference to our image, right? And we can just say find view by ID. Oh, sorry. We're in the fragment here, right? So we have v dot find view by ID. And we can just say r dot ID dot image. And oh, I gotta cast this guy, right? Okay. So the question is, I mean, the real question is, what image are we going to display? What's a good? There we go. There we go. Name anything you want to see a picture of, like right now. What? What's a cool adjective to put on a shoebox? Colorful?
Let's get dangerous from it. So it's in Darkwing Duck.
Dude, Darkwing Duck. Yes. All right, so this is it right here. I want no, I don't want to go to Darkwing Duck's website. I'm gonna copy image URL. So I'm gonna go back into Eclipse, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say image loader dot get instance, and that has a method called display image, and it has two parameters: the URL you want to display, and then the image view you want to stuff the thing into. Right? So let's just say that long thing. Jeez, let's put that up here. Just gonna say, oops. I'm gonna say private string image URL. Set it to this really long string. Oh my gosh. Come on, Google Images. Oh my gosh. Is this real life?
That's like their cached one.
Okay, that's a terrible URL. We need something better than that.
You click through one more level one. Click view image.
Oh. Great work, everyone. Let's not do that. It wasn't even the right URL anyway. Oh, was it? I did copy image URL. What the heck? Okay, whatever. I guess so. Alright, so first parameter, the URL. Second parameter, our image view that we just got a reference to. So now when you click on the button, it should load that image. Bear in mind, let's see, do I have an error right now? Yes, sir. Good call. Okay, so now we have that. The one thing to note is, remember, our first fragment, we're defaulting the image view to that little Android guy, right? If I go to graphical layout, he's that. But then whenever I click the button, it should load Darkwing Duck, right? So I'm gonna, surely I screwed something up, right? I wrote way too much code before I ran the thing. So right now it's the Android guy. If I hit the button, oh snap! What's up? Right, and you actually saw some magic going on back here. It looks not very decipherable, but it's There was some internet magic going on there, and that's why this library is really nice because it actually has this whole system in place for like caching images in memory and caching them on the disk, so that like once you've loaded this once, they just sit on the SD card, and the next time you go ask for it from the internet, it's actually like, oh, you already have that downloaded on your phone. I'll just grab it from there. Oh yeah. No. I guess if I do that again, it'll go do it again. Yeah. You just won't notice anything change. It's a good point. Actually, yeah. The next time it should actually be, if I back out and go back in, it'll probably be a little quicker. I don't know. Kind of hard to tell, but and honestly, it may have been how I may have not configured it to even use that correctly. That's why like all that configuration mess was there. But yeah. So yeah, this is just kind of one of those libraries that be glad that if you're looking to get into Android development, you're getting into it now, because like 2 years ago, a lot of these tools didn't exist. I don't know if that was the case with iOS for you, Justin, but like there were just a lot of handy dandy tools that just weren't around whenever first started. So oh, that's good. Yeah, can't say the same about Android. All right, cool. Well, yeah. So I think what I'd like to be able to do is have that just available maybe on the, or maybe we just need to put those links up on AwesomeEQ, because definitely the tutorial is a good resource. Let's see here. We'll go back to that. But is it on this page? I don't know where it went. Just that guy. But yeah, so like having a database, there's a built-in way to do that with Android, and there's a better way to do it with this other library. But this Android tutorial resource is a good one because they basically just have a whole bunch of topics in here. Broadcast receiver, Android testing and tools, location API, okay? And then also, as I pointed out, this Android tools repo is my own concoction, and there's just some classes in the library project that I tend to use in every app I've ever done, and it kind of just simplifies some things. So I hope I've documented that well enough that if you guys do want to go look at that, if not, feel free to, there's an issues thing on this GitHub, or email me. So yeah, anybody have any anything they wish they looked at but we didn't? I know it's been a long day, so. Sure. Actually, let's see. The main thing that we changed was, oh, you know what? Actually,
No.
I actually have this whole Sandbox app on my GitHub. The only thing it doesn't have is the universal image loader that we just worked on, which I could integrate that and then put it up there. But if you go to github.com/Chris-Allen, where is it? Yeah, Sandbox app is my most recent repository on there. So it's just Chris-Allen/Sandbox-app. And this is pretty much what we built today, except for the list view stuff. So I'll tell you what, I'll update this, and whenever, we might just send out an email to everybody that consolidates those links as well as showing you the complete Sandbox app for today. Awesome.
Also, we can tweet out a link to your gist underneath that.
Cool.
Well, good job, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, and thank you guys for coming.